Good morning, Astrolabians. Welcome back to the Astrolabe, brought to you by King Pilled. This episode is sponsored by the King Pilled Discord. You can join at kingpilled.com. Come be a part of the select few in the super top secret Discord. It is the end of the week at last. It's Friday. That reminds me, I need to remember to post the you guys it's Friday clip. Abosh. What's going on, everyone in the chat? Good to see you. We're streaming on YouTube and on Twitter. If you're watching on Twitter, do me a favor and hit the retweet button on the stream. You can follow me at Real King Pilled, and then if you're watching on YouTube, then hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think something like 75% of the viewers of the channel are subscribed. So those of you who are loyal, but we need to get some new subscribers in here. And we only do that through you guys sharing, talking about it, commenting on it. And I see it. I see it when you guys do. Kate says, glad to get a Pace Morby ad instead of an annoying Kamala ad for the King Pilled stream. Shout out Pace Morby. Need to follow, kind of get caught up on what he's been talking about lately. I haven't paid as much attention more recently. Since I started doing the Astrolabe, I've had to sunset some of my other pastimes to focus on the show. All right, so we've got a bunch of stuff here today. I don't really want to talk about this all that much, but it's in the news. Everyone's talking about it. So I figure we gotta weigh in on the Abrotion debate just a little bit. I got some clips from RFK's VP. It's very interesting seeing the disgruntled, disaffected, stabbed right through the heart lib perspective on some of these things. And then there's Elon, Starlink, and Brazil are having it out. This will be a callback to the Mike Benz clips we played yesterday. Let's see, we got something on remote viewing. I got to play a couple clips of Kamala in her interview, a 45-minute interview, and they released 18 minutes of it. And they're not going to release a transcript, and they're not going to release everything else. They are getting her. They're just barely pushing her out there, just trying to barely satisfy the desire to actually see her do anything. It's a friendly interviewer. She's got her big dopey BFF there next to her, and it's very ruthlessly clipped down and released just a bare minimum. Literally, they released a third of what they recorded. Okay, we'll watch some of those, and then I got an interesting thing on remote viewing. This has been a subject of interest to me in the past. Those of you who have seen if you haven't listened to Space Age Maximalist talking to Stormy Waters about remote viewing, I very, very strongly recommend it. Go to the podcast is Jungle Bunker Telemetric Funk, the best podcast name of all time. Jungle Bunker Telemetric Funk. You can go listen to the 3-part consciousness series that Sam did with Stormy. Very strongly recommend that. We've got a little thread here on remote viewing, and then some cool AI things. There's Ian Carroll has the Doomer take, and then there's a couple of interesting applications. And then if we have time, we're going to finish it off with a nice long post about what MAGA is from Robert Sterling on Twitter. Yeah, so let's launch into it. Of course, to start off with, we have to oh, come on. I don't know why it started doing this. This is annoying. Every single day now to figure out which tab it is that I'm trying to share. And it is this one. Here we go. After this, then everything will be fine the rest of the way. But this song came out, apparently released 24 years ago today. Now, I don't know when the video actually came from. I didn't care enough to go actually look and see if it was 25 years. If like the person made the video and said 25 years ago today, actually yesterday, but yesterday is the day that I saw it. And we're going to sit here. This is going to take you guys back. Those of you, maybe some of you are in here are too young. I'm not sure. I'm starting to get to that age where I actually have to consider the fact that people who are significantly younger than me may be paying attention to me. And so maybe some of you are too young for this even, but approximately 25 years ago, this was what it was like to live in America.
New kids on the block had a bunch of hits. Chinese food makes me sick, and I think it's fly when girls stop by for the summer, for the summer. I like girls that wear Abercrombie and Fitch. I take her if I had one wish, but she's been gone since that summer, since that summer. Hip-hop marmalade, spick and span. Met you one summer and it all began. You're the best girl that I ever did see. The great Larry Bird jersey, 33. When you take a sip, you buzz like a hornet. Billy Shakespeare wrote a whole bunch of sonnets. Call me Willie Whistle cause I can't speak, baby. Something in your eyes went and drove me crazy. Now I can't forget you and it makes me mad. Left one day and never came back. Stayed all summer then went back home. Macaulay Culkin wasn't home alone. Fell deep in love but now we ain't speaking. Michael J. Fox was Alex P. Keaton. When I met you I said my name is Rich. You look like a girl from Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh, man. For the summer. This is Brandon Walsh. That's right. Kate says, wonder if JD has endorsed a possible replacement for his Senate seat yet. That's a good question. I don't think that he has. At least I haven't heard about it. That's something if I'll look into it later if I remember. If any of you wants to go check it out right now and see if there's a what's the status of that. And for some more nostalgia, Jack Posobiec is very close to the Trump campaign, obviously, and he's been really hitting the vibes, just nailing them perfectly lately. You can kind of see where maybe some of the spiciness from the Trump War Room account. I have nothing confirmed. I'm wildly speculating, but you can kind of trace some of these vectors, and he's been nailing it. This is just so aesthetically, just absolutely hits the spot right now. Ryan says, so I know this is the aesthetic right now, but is this Zoomers wanting to experience the Gen X vibe? I don't know. Like, I was thinking about this last night. Well, why is it that this aesthetic is coming back right now? What are the things driving this revival in all of a sudden all of the like older millennial to young Gen X? That spirit is suddenly on the rise, and now it's becoming cool for even people who aren't necessarily straight from that generation, or that it's not even, it's like a sub generation or a micro generation. I don't know, people who were born between probably maybe 1980 and 1992, somewhere in that range. For some reason, it's the thing that is on the rise again. I was going for a walk last night with my dog, and I was like, you know what? I want to listen to some Creed right now. And I sat down, or I didn't sit down. I pulled my phone out, turned on some Creed, and I walked around the neighborhood for like half an hour just listening to Creed. And I've never been happier. I was walking on clouds. I was kind of pondering this. Like, who is the group? If you guys can like in your mind go back to when you were, I don't know, for me it would be probably 10, maybe between 8 and 12, somewhere in that time frame, when Creed was like at the time it was both really, really popular and really controversial. If you could put yourself back, kind of imagine yourself at school or in with a group of friends or whatever, there was the people who liked Creed and would listen to Creed proudly. And then there was the people who were like, ew, yuck, that's gross. Like, you listen to Creed? Oh, have you no music taste? Oh, that's so disgusting that you would listen to Creed. The people who what was the demographic? What was the not just the age, but like the, there you have the jocks and the cool kids and the nerds and the theater kids. And what was the demographic that would have been the essence of the opposition to Creed, like saying that Creed's not cool? Because very clearly at this point, the fact that anything with a Creed edit instantly goes wildly viral, even if it's ironic virality, that still indicates that there was some sort of even though the overwhelming sentiment or vibe was anti-Creed or anti-Nickelback. They're like notorious for being like the thing that cheesy, non-serious people who don't, like the chuds, basically. Creed and Nickelback was like chud music. And so now to identify with all of this, the LAN parties, the riding your bike and going off jumps out in the driveway, like all that, identifying with all of that is tied to being a chud. So as this stuff is on the rise, chud sympathy is on the rise. And I don't know which one's which. I don't know which what's the chicken, what's the egg, which one came first. Is this chud power is on the rise? So we're going to listen to Creed and Nickelback and you're going to like it. You're going to be subjected to all the Creed and Nickelback. We're going to be waterboarding you with Mountain Dew, crumbling up Doritos and shoving them up your nose. You will have an Xbox controller duct taped to your hands, and we're gonna Clockwork Orange you with some like some Donkey Kong or something. Super Smash Brothers. It's such a fascinating thing to me, just watching the way that, because even now you'll still get the people who are like detached and I don't understand why Creed and Nickelback are people are trying to make it fetch. Stop trying to make fetch happen. They're buying into or associating themselves with that old spirit of being like, ew, yuck, Creed is gross. Like what kind of uncultured swine are you if you like Creed? Well, I don't think you can have that position and also be like pro chud, because taking that position is necessarily anti chud. It becomes like a vector for identifying class traitors. If you don't like Creed or Nickelback, then you're a class traitor. Euthanasia says, my first hearing of Higher was a DBZ fan edit of Goku and Cooler fighting, so I was hooked from day one. Theater kids. Yeah, music snob kids. Yeah, music snob kids hated Creed and Nickelback. The rest of us loved them. Yeah. And it was the music snob kids that were so you also had the theater kids, but the theater kids were never popular, really. They were maybe like ironically popular. It depends on the culture that you were part of. But the theater kids, I had a lot of friends who were theater kids, and they very much did not see themselves as popular. They were like the holdout stalwarts. I really think that if you went back maybe between 20 and 40 years ago, and you just evaluated the different class dynamics in the average high school and broke them down, you would have incredibly good proxies for the current political classes. And like the way these coalitions might form. So like, the jocks and the nerds are typically going to be at war with each other, but they might align themselves for the sake of taking out the rich snobby girls or something. It'd be very interesting to have someone do that, sit down and chart out all the different little subcultures. I didn't get them as directly because I never really went to school. I was homeschooled for the majority of my life. Then I went to an academy, so there was some of the dynamic there, but it was also a very niche cultural dynamic within the academy as well. So I'm very clearly aware of it from college as well. College really is where I got a lot of it, but I'm probably not the best person to do that because I would need to be someone who is much more engaged in all of charting all the social dynamics back then. John Doyle had a video about theater kids recently. That's probably pretty good. In all the little circles that I managed to, I was kind of a bit of a social chameleon. Like I would be able to, I played the cello. I would go hang out with all the music nerds. I had a number of friends who were very much theater kids, like choir and then the gamers. I would go hang out with all the gamers and play video games, sports. I was big into sports. So then I had all the sports players, all the sports ball guys. I'd be fine being friends with them. I was also really interested in science and math, so I could go sit down and hang out with the engineers and listen to them and talk to them. So it was, for me, I was just interested in people and learning things and doing things and having a great time, and I was willing to do it with anyone. So I didn't really experience the the class warfare as intensely as other people did. Kate says the music snob kids still had a weird pull over the popular kids somehow, making Creed and Nickelback snubbed as a whole. Yeah, that was like, it was almost like the rich popular kids were willing to, like, as a part of their war against the chuds, they would draw on this thing from the theater kids, which made the theater kids feel special. Like, oh, look, they're saying their thing. That's right. We're experts in music, and you should take our opinion seriously. And you have the rich popular kids who are like the upper class kids. Like, what kind of what kind of job did your dad have if you listen to Creed? Don't you know that Creed is like not musically good or anything? Matt, theater kid simp. No, it was the other way around. It was that I was the one blessing the theater kids with my presence. They were like, "Oh, the popular person has come to grace us with his presence." Okay. Speaking of culture clashes here, two British dudes try ribs for the first time. This is one of my favorite forms of content is the limeys who are fascinated with Americans, with American culture, and like see it as really aspirational.
Whoa. I know you're from where you're from.
We're foreign. Well, we don't know what we're doing.
Stop with the knife.
No, you don't need a knife?
No, you pull it apart with your hand. And listen, hold up. And you take your fingers and you lift that up and you eat it.
Okay.
Not with a fork.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry.
Enjoy holding your food and eating it like that. It's okay.
I love eating with hands. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
I'm sorry I let it get that far.
No. Our mistake. Our mistake completely.
We're not used to meat being soft enough to just rip it apart without a knife.
Okay.
I mean, that's not normal. Cheers.
Cheers.
The better is in America. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Wait, what?
It is the most succulent meat with the most beautiful glaze.
Can you see how cleanly that's come off the bone? You see that? I'm sorry, I completely lost for words.
This is such brilliantly crafted content. I'm a very simple man. You give me video of European person losing their shit over how amazing something American is, and I will watch it and I will amplify it. I was thinking as I was watching this that those same class dynamics within the I don't know, an American high school in 1998 they're also, how would you say this? Like America, the spirit of the chud is like the spirit of America vis-a-vis Europe. So the Europeans, their posture toward Americans is like Americans are like the chuds. Like we're the popular, rich, classy kids in school, and you guys are all the, you know, whatever. You play in dirt and you like go outside and you don't have a personal tutor, you know, yada yada yada. Like that's Europe sees themselves that way. They're very hoity-toity, and you could probably break it down to like some of the smaller European countries might be like the theater kids, and then the Americans are like the brash chuds. So this here, if using that framework, this here is kind of like this might be like the theater kids or something who are just creaming themselves over American chud culture. So it's kind of like we're actually we've clockworked oranged them. They're sitting down with the Xbox controller taped to their hands, but they actually like it. They're like, yes, give me more. Slumming it with the pores. Super Mario Kart, GoldenEye, a little bit of Halo. Yeah, I don't know. Halo, they'll have to earn their way to. Halo or Black Ops 2, they gotta earn their way up there. Proud to be an American where I'm allowed to eat with hands. They must be freed. They're right for the taking. Yeah. America is the Nickelback or Creed of countries to Euros. That's so good. Oh my God. There was a good point I saw up here. Important to note from Straight Buster, he says, important to note, Creed was also Christian rock adjacent. That's actually a really good point. Because I remember that. I was a big contemporary Christian music listener for the first, 15 years of my life. It was overwhelmingly what I listened to. And so I had a natural soft spot for Creed and Nickelback because the sound was pretty similar to the stuff like the in retrospect, I haven't listened to it very much since then, but I'll always have a fondness for that really corny Christian rock, or Christian rap. You know, like DC Talk, I have like every DC Talk song memorized and will for my entire life. That was my culture. That was the music of the soul for me growing up. So Creed was obviously pretty adjacent to that, Creed and Nickelback. So I was naturally inclined to like them. And I think that may even be the reason why there was such hostility toward it. Because it wasn't cool to like go to church and what are you, some kind of stuffy moral majority person? So the opposition to Creed, I think, was probably a cultural manifestation of the reaction to the stuffy moral majority Christians. But now that, honestly, a lot of them are being like, remember the moms about violence in video games? That's such a mundane observation now. Or, the degeneracy and vulgarity of rap music. The moral majority people, in retrospect, have been pretty well, what's the term, vindicated. So that's probably part of why you're seeing a corresponding rise in the things that were associated with the moral majority. As the moral majority gets vindicated, well, those things are going to get vindicated as well. All right. Now this song, you guys are not prepared for this song. I'm disappointed I went live late today because Jason way out in the fringes of the world, he's already gone to sleep, so he's not awake to appreciate this. I don't get to see his reaction in real time in the chat. But in 2016, the Australian government funded a music video encouraging Aboriginal Australians to stop huffing gas. The result was an accidental shitpost that was more racist than most intentionally racist shitposts are.
Brothers, sisters,
we can stay forever. Show me me sister, show me brother,
and we stand strong for one another.
come on, come on, come on, come on, yeah, come on, come on. We put the leaders over the islands. You don't sniff petrol from a can. You put the petrol in the hiding space. Don't be rama, messing with your brain. You say, damn it, do you understand? You don't sniff petrol from a can. You put the petrol in the corridors. Don't be rama, sniffing up your nose.
Don't be rama, 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 don't be rama. Love your friends and protect your family. They are with you when you are lonely.
Don't bandera, don't bandera. When you stop,
Your brains will be clear.
come on, come on, come on, come on, yeah. Come on, come on. We put the leaders over the islands. You don't sniff petrol from a can. You put the petrol in the hiding space. Don't be rama, messing with your brain. You say, damn it, do you understand? You don't sniff petrol from a can. You put the petrol in the corridors. Don't be rama, sniffing up your nose. You not deadly, you rama, gonna get caught like Elon Osama. Yeah, I tell you, 'cause I can, yeah, I tell you. When I was walking in the street, shit, the boys and girls are sleeping. Osama, gonna get caught like Elon Osama. Yeah, I tell you, 'cause I can, yeah, I tell you. When I was walking in the street, shit, the boys and girls are sleeping. Sniffing too much petrol, killing your brains. We put the leaders over the islands. You don't sniff petrol from a can. You put the petrol in the hiding space. Don't be rama, messing with your brain. You say, damn it, do you understand? You don't sniff petrol from a can. You put the petrol in the corridors. Don't be rama, sniffing up your nose. Use your brains, think about your culture.
Oh man, it's a banger. It's genuinely really good. Oh, yeah, I agree, Josh. He says, this seems like eugenics properly implemented. Of course, I kind of think the same about removing safety laws from the workplace. I find Darwin Awards to be right and proper. Like, I have no problem with this whatsoever. This is where the libs actually get it right. If only they could just be honest about it. This is great. This is totally how you would communicate an idea like this to people like that. Now, there's a similar one. Poo in the loo. Poo in the loo has become such a deeply entrenched meme that I don't think a lot of people know its origin. Pootaloo was the name of a UNICEF campaign from 2013 begging Indians to shit in toilets. They even funded an official music video for it that ends with a toilet rave.
First thing in the morning, what do I see? A pile of shit staring at me. I close my eyes, I step away. No matter where I go, there's no getting away. out on the street, what do I smell? Shit that's stinking to high hell. I hold my breath, I step away, but everywhere I go, there's no getting away.
Hey shit, no shit, this is that shit, oh shit, no shit. Get high. Lagay na pet ke niche, happy birthday. Lagay na pet ke niche, happy birthday.
Next to you,
जहाँ मुड़ेगा वही मिलेगा हर जगह सलाम मारेगा ए shit no shit this is that shit oh shit no shit कुतुब मीनार गेट वे ऑफ इंडिया चार मीनार जंतर मंतर खेत के अंदर एयरपोर्ट के बाहर
अबे ओए यहाँ हगना मना है
तो क्या हगना मना है ओ या हगना मना है तो क्या हगना मना है
हगना मना है
हगना मना है हगना मना है हगना मना है हगना मना है ओ या हगू
अबे ओए बहुत हो गया बहुत हो गया
Let's take the pool to the loo. 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 Everywhere. Next to you. Everywhere. Where is that blue? Let's take the pool to the loo. 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 Let's take the pool to the loo.
Move on! Oh my God. All right, 77 watching right now, 26 likes. If you guys can't hit the like button for that, I don't know what I've got to do for you. That one was for the Leafs out there. I think you guys need this. You could start working on some campaigns, just playing this out in public. It's from UNICEF. You're just good liberals spreading the word, obeying your institutions. All right. Potty training an entire country must be tiring. Oh man, I'm kind of tired now. All right, now that I've got you guys all wired, here's a downer. The downer here is not, as some may think, the downer here is not Trump's response. The downer here is the response to Trump's response. So this is a comment that Trump gave yesterday. We're going to lay out some context here because this is what I'm about to lay out should be obvious. This should be intuitive to people. However, right-wingers, conservatives, particularly the evangelical pro-life conservatives, have just a massive case of brainworms. They're politically retarded. They have zero political instincts. They're not capable. They've accepted the blank slate narrative. The liberal, they're within the liberal worldview, and they're trying to operate as liberals on anti-liberal positions within a liberal worldview. So their actual intention, the spirit of what they're doing doesn't matter. Because what matters is that, in effect, they're a bunch of blind, bumbling oafs just crashing around, shitting everything up. They are the political version of the Indians out shitting in the beach. So this was an interview yesterday. Trump was asked about his position on abortion. Yet again, he's made this abundantly clear. Roe v. Wade was one of the biggest political accomplishments by our side in generations. The entire narrative all along has been, we need Roe v. Wade repealed and everything returned to the states. Now, that is the case, which means it's your responsibility as passionate pro-life conservatives in a given state to dedicate your resources to legislating against abortion within your states. And your responsibility at the federal level, politically, is to block the potential of someone who will undo that and force you to have to engage on that level again at the federal level. You've got all these constitutional conservatives who don't even know how to follow the naturally implied rules of their own fucking system. So this was Trump's comment, his first comment.
You overturn,
everyone does.
You
I think
overturn
everyone
Roe,
does, yeah.
and you want abortion to be a states' rights issue. In Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. Look, just so you understand, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade terminated for years, 52 years. I got it done. They wanted it to go back to the states. Exceptions are very important for me, for Ronald Reagan, for others that have navigated this very, very interesting and difficult path.
So there's an amendment in Florida where he is a resident. So she's asking him about how he's voting in his state as a citizen. He's casting a vote as a person, not as a president, as a person. He's casting a vote. So this is, he's showing what his personal opinion is. His personal opinion is 6 weeks isn't enough weeks. I think this is an abomination. 6 weeks is too many weeks. So if I was a resident of Florida, then I would be you're being outraged at one person and their vote in that area, that state. Now they're influential. Their vote is going to influence other votes. But it has never been the case. Nobody has ever even supposed that Trump is the most radical fringe of the pro-life movement in America. No, he recognizes that this is, even if he doesn't completely align with you, radical pro-life person, he wants to, within the structure of the system that exists, he doesn't want to force something illegal and unjust upon you. So he's going to return it to the states, and then you have it out at the state level. Now you might say, oh, well, this implies how he's going to rule at the federal level. He is on the record over and over and over again as believing, accepting that this is something to be dealt with at the state level. So his position on abortion as president at the federal level does not matter. It matters to the extent that he says, as far as the federal government is concerned, this is not our concern. Now, if you want to ask me as a private citizen what I believe, well, here's what I believe. I'm like moderately pro-life. But I don't care about the personal pro-life position of the president if his baseline presumption is the federal government has no involvement in this. It's completely untenable to have a federal ban on abortion. Advocating for that makes you a controlled opposition. If you don't have the political sense to recognize that the only utility in a movement like that is to promote the pro-choice perspective, then your intentions with it don't matter. The state is not the church. There's a way to make the state subservient to the church, but this requires long time horizons. You're not going to do this in a single election cycle. And trying to do it in a single election cycle makes you indistinguishable from a Fed because of the actual effect that the actual actions will have. So this is the amendment that they're talking about, which absolutely, this is a terrible amendment. It should not pass. I'll be kind of surprised if it passes, but I won't be super surprised because this is the state of public opinion regarding abortion right now, which is a judgment upon us. The fact that abortion is so publicly tolerable at various levels is a judgment upon us. And the solution to that is not go wrestle control of the federal government and then try to get a national ban passed. That's a fool's errand. It will not happen. It could happen in the future, someday, down the road. But in order for us to get to that point, we have to be prudent now. Amendment 4 says, this is the amendment to limit government interference with abortion. Very Orwellian. No law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health, as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. This is the thing that Andrew commented the other day. He said, this vagueness can be a utility as long as you have your people in power. Because the way that legislation works right now is it's worded vaguely, and then the experts are the ones who determine the definitions of these things. What's the definition of viability? Well, viability is conception. How about that? Or when necessary to protect the patient's health. You could define this as extreme injury or death, and then you can narrowly define those. Healthcare provider can be a very narrowly, specifically defined person. This amendment does not change the legislature's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor has an abortion. So it leaves that in place. So yes, this absolutely, if you're in Florida, vote no on this. I think you can use the vagueness, but I think that's a dangerous game to play in the current political environment. So then, if in case you're not completely sure after that 145-second clip, if you're not completely sure, and it matters to you what Trump's personal stance is, it should be very clear after this clip.
She asked me about abortion, and I handled it very nicely because you know what? That's so overplayed. We have abortion. We have the whole thing brought back into the states where it belongs. That's where everybody wanted it for years and years and years. And they're voting on it.
The abortion issue doesn't naturally matter to him. He's a New York lib, New York Democrat. This isn't like a key issue to him, but he knows that it's a key issue to his base. And he wants his base to get the things that they want. So what he was told all along is, he's like, hey, give me a position that I can run on that I may not actually care about, but the people who are going to vote for me care about it. So I'm going to represent them as a patron should. Here's the issue. Abortion. Okay, what do you want? We want it returned to the states. This is no business of the federal government. Murder is not something that's handled by the federal government. It's handled at the state level. So let's return to that. Okay, I'll get you what you want. He got us what we wanted. Oh, now we're going to move the goalposts. Oh, no, this isn't enough. Actually, Go the other way around and do a national ban. And we're gonna champion this issue right at the moment where it will undermine you the most. These people are politically retarded.
And I happen to believe in the exceptions Ronald Reagan did for life of the mother, rape, incest. The exceptions, probably 90% of the people do. But you know, I was just telling this reporter, the real problem and the real radicals on that issue are the Democrats, where you can have an abortion in the 9th month. And in 6 states, you're allowed to kill the baby after the baby is born. And you know, one of those states is Minnesota, where this tampon Tim comes from.
So it's pretty abundantly clear the way these subversives want to frame it is, oh, Trump is fine with abortion up until birth. He's made it pretty clear here that he isn't. If it matters to you what his personal position is, it's pretty clear his personal position is it should be resolved at the state level, and abortion up until birth is not acceptable. So he wants somewhere between 6 weeks and birth. That's a really wide window, particularly for someone personally who believes 6 weeks is too many weeks. It's about 6 weeks too many. I also recognize that my position on this is extremely fringe. Extremely fringe. Which means the people who occupy my position have a responsibility to make this not fringe. And that's not going to happen through federal politics. You're not going to mainstream something like that through federal politics. You are not a lib, even though you're thinking and acting like one. You don't get to occupy that position. You don't get to use politics that way. That's not within your purview right now. You have to have some self-awareness and recognize that as much as you may not like it, as gay and fake as it is, the fact of the matter is there are two possibilities right now. One possibility you just heard. Wants it at the state level and is opposed to up until birth. The other option is no restrictions whatsoever, mandated from the top down, encouraged and facilitated. Those are the two options. You don't get a third option. So by default, undermining and doing anything to prevent the first option necessarily is advocacy for the second option. Nate Fisher says, are you serious about stopping abortion? The best way to turn people against something is to make it shameful, embarrassing, low status. This has repeatedly been used to turn opinion against practices, drunk driving, racist language, not recycling, etc., before winning the power to impose legal penalties, or to ensure that such penalties maintain support and could be ratcheted up. Even the right has had wins of this sort against overt displays of DEI rhetoric and gained the power to impose some legal bans. These efforts should be particularly focused on middle and upper middle class suburban women, the sort who are very concerned about holding respectable opinions and currently serve as the major impediment to abortion bans. Actual tactics to achieve this can vary, but it should be easy to assess whether abortion is viewed as shameful in a particular community. Contrast with failed slogans like choose life. This just reinforces the left's framing that abortion is a valid choice. Did anti-racism campaigners ever implore people to choose not to use the N-word? Of course not. They pushed the message that the very thought was shameful. Will the pro-life lobby embrace these tactics? Many pro-lifers complaining about Trump's position shy away from anything that could be seen as shaming women for abortion, even when it's the only strategy that might give us more wins. Lila Rose, you have a huge platform. Will you support this? David French, I don't think anyone believes you actually care about banning abortion, but you've used this as a pretext to attack Trump. You have a column with one of the publications with the most power to shift norms. Will you use it to push the message that abortion is shameful? Of course not. Of course not. Because the pro-life activists that are spurging out about this are disingenuous, bad people. Leatherwood, and many evangelical institutions are citing abortion as a reason not to vote for Trump. Your job is to promote the agenda of the SBC. Will you embrace a strategy that can actually move the needle on abortion? No, because being politically effective is wrong. It's wrong and unchristian to be politically effective because Christianity has been equated with political subservience. I wonder why that might be. I wonder who might have an incentive to correlate Christianity to political submission. That's not a Christian principle. There was a couple other tweets in here of his that I wanted to highlight, and then I've got at least one from Kryptos. So this one here. This is exactly the perspective I'm talking about. Jared Burdick says, the best way is criminalize it without exception or compromise, to expose it for the evil that it is. The law is the greatest tutor in any society. Hashtag abolition 101. We don't have the power to do so today. This is like ANCAP thinking. Ban the state. End the Fed. Abolish the state and replace it with nothing. This is like old man yells at cloud. You're standing on a cliff shouting into the wind. So how do we shift opinion to gain this power? By pushing for it. We do have the power in some states if we are what we say we are. Okay, we'll focus on that then. Stop wasting your energy on pointless, quixotic campaigns and go focus where you actually do have the power. If pro-life Republicans in states like Oklahoma would stop opposing abolition, we would have abolition on the state level. Okay, why aren't you talking to them? Until then, the greatest way to educate is to expose the compromise. Expose them! Spread the message! We just got to change hearts and minds. If we just have a free exchange of ideas in the marketplace of ideas, our arguments are the best. You can't argue with our arguments. They're not going to argue with you. They're just going to shoot you. You've repeatedly lost referenda even in very conservative states. Popular opinion does not currently support bans. I proposed a strategy to change this. Here is the politics understander. If you want legislation nationally banning something that can't even be accomplished at the state level, you're going to have to shift popular opinion in a big way. And you know how you don't shift popular opinion? Like this. That's how you turn popular opinion against you. By being insufferable and slimy, backstabbing, hypocritical. This is how you turn public opinion against you and make your job even harder. It's not your job. You're not doing it. You're making our job even harder. You're ensuring that more babies will die because of your political incompetence. We don't have the luxury of being this naive. Where was Kryptos' comment? Back here. With the original quote from Ben Zoglop, you will reward Kamala Harris and the Democrats by withholding your vote. This is how the system works. Complain about it all you want. This is how it works. You want to punish Donald Trump for not being 100% aligned with you on abortion abolitionism by helping elect a radical pro-abortion candidate. Explain to me how this helps stop abortion. You don't want to stop abortion if you're Ben Zoglop. You don't actually want to, as demonstrated performatively, because you're doing the things that will prevent the stopping of abortion, that will facilitate more abortions. This is living in Ancapistan in your head, conservative evangelical edition. I don't know if I can read this out loud. If they're not going to start bleeping abortion clinics, they are not serious people because they're obviously not interested in a political solution. Right, exactly. If you're not willing to be a Fed, then you don't care about stopping abortion. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Here's the rhetoric being pushed by the people who are de facto earning these people's votes. Whoops. I caught it after like 2 seconds. Lincoln Project. Huh.
Driver's license, registration.
Here you go, sir. How's your day going?
That's your daughter?
Sure is.
Abigail, right?
How do you know her?
Were you about 8 weeks pregnant? See, you've been spotting recently. You've had any cramps or nausea?
That's personal.
You've been taking your prenatal vitamins?
Excuse me?
Are you ticketing me for something?
Where are you heading, Abigail?
To go see my older sister, Natalie.
Well, that's strange. This says here that Natalie's at a concert in Dallas, and your navigation is set to a women's health clinic in one of those abortion states.
We have the right to travel.
Not anymore. Step out of the car.
Please, officer.
Both of you out now. You, sir, are under arrest for crossing state lines to obtain an abortion for a minor under your care. And you, young lady, well, you're under arrest for evading motherhood.
You're under arrest for evading motherhood. This is how your enemies perceive the incoming political movement that you don't want to support. Do you? I don't know how to put this more simply. Do you not see the utility in this? You have to have a time horizon beyond a single election cycle. Andrew, politically Catholic, says it's just laziness. Those fucks want everything done for them. Yes. You don't want to actually do the difficult work, the stuff that requires sustained, coordinated, long-term investments. You want the easy out. Just wait for an election cycle to come around and try to lambaste the guy into giving you everything you want and then check out for another 4 years. Picanyones, $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. He says, you should be scared of what else Trump's team may want to enforce locally if you allow them this exception. They're not your guys on the whole. I agree with that. Yeah. I'm very happy for them to embrace federalism. Let the federal stuff happen the way it's going to. Let them fight that battle. Be, at the very least, be obstructionists, blockading at that level. Allowing us the time and the space to build up our own institutions and protect our own domains because we've been so absent from this task for so long. We need the time and the space to build things up locally. I think that's the upshot of a Trump campaign, of a Trump election. Maybe we could get something even more than that. I'm not going to have my heart set on that. I want them to be a to be a wall against foreign invaders of all types across all domains. Kate says people don't realize that abortion is the generational curse. God won't let us off the hook by erasing this overnight. We must put in the work to redeem our parents' generation for their sins. Yes. You're not going to get the get out of jail free card. It's not in the cards. It just isn't. Yelling and screaming for it isn't going to make it happen. You have to exercise your own responsibility in your own local domain in order to get something like that, and you're going to have to do it for your entire life. All right, let's see here. Come on, what's the other thing I had? Martyr Maid. He's been bang on with this with his tweets the last day or so. He said anti-IVF is a fringe position. Sorry to tell you purity-smiling idealists, but you couldn't even pass that vote in a secret ballot of your own church. This is true. I personally am anti-IVF after I've dug into it and seen what it entails. I think it's actually it's pretty horrifying. But that's an exceptionally fringe position. And the motivation for being pro-IVF for the majority of people is pronatalism. You're not going to get anti-IVF at the federal level. You're probably not even going to get it at the state level. This is another one of these generational curses. This is a product of the same generational curse. It's a spiritual war that has to be dealt with on the spiritual level. You can't solve every problem through politics. Politics is a problem for solving political problems. This isn't a political problem. It's a spiritual problem. Catholic Barbarian says, it really doesn't matter the issue. I'm tired of Republicans conciliating to the left, angering the base to capture the non-existent middle. When was the last time a Democrat conciliated, angering their base? If he can support IVF without promising federal dollars for it. The Republicans and Democrats are not the same. Number one, the very premise of this question indicates that Catholic Barbarian doesn't understand the political field. Democrats don't have to conciliate toward the middle because they control all the institutions. Incidentally, they're doing nothing but conciliating toward the middle right now. Martyrmate says he's not conciliating with the left on this. IVF has overwhelming support across the political spectrum. Yes. It's probably like 85% of people support it. Because they don't know any better, or they don't, to be opposed to IVF basically requires whole opposition to abortion altogether. So, I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions and someone's going to, I'm different, whatever. But overwhelmingly, anti-IVF is super anti-abortion. So if abortion is generally there's a small majority in the country that's open to some sort of abortion, then of course they're going to be pro-IVF. Again, this is not a battle that you're going to win in a political in a presidential election campaign season. Choose your battles. If you want to win the pro versus anti-IVF battle, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier under a Trump administration than it is under a Democrat administration. And it's probably not going to be either way. We're talking decades to solve this problem because of how negligent our people have been on these issues. They've allowed them, this entire mindset, to just completely sink into and penetrate American minds. You're not just going to weed them out overnight. It's going to take a lot of sustained work, and it's going to require a tremendous amount of sacrifice and humility to change people's minds on something like this. You're not going to bludgeon them or berate them into it. He did conciliate on abortion today discussing the Florida Amendment. No, he didn't. Catholic Barbarian is allowing these insidious fake conservatives to inform the way he's looking at the terrain here. Martyrmate said he's doing that because the loud pro-life maximalists are by far his biggest political liability right now. And Talent Evaluator says his biggest political liability is the potential to lose pro-life maximalists. Hold on. Among those who support abortion rights, he's already irrevocably confirmed as their enemy by his SCOTUS picks. There is no demographic that supports the Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, but draws the line at a national ban or IVF. He's on the anti-abortion side of political spectrum, whether he likes it or not. The only question is whether he betrays his base and depresses turnout, because moderation will gain nothing from the other side. If you don't want turnout depression, stop fucking asking him about it. This is the entire reason he's being asked. He's being asked specifically so people like this will freak out and go tilting after windmills. His personal opinion on it doesn't matter. There is no radical abortion, radical anti-abortion, extreme pro-life, whatever you want to call them. There is no person like that available right now. What we have is the person who thinks there should be restrictions on it and thinks the federal government shouldn't be involved in it at all, versus the person who thinks there should be no restrictions, it should be incentivized, more created, and it should be mandated from the federal level. Those are the two options on the table. If you want patronage networks for your people, you have to pull your head out of your ass and quit spitting on every single person who offers you patronage because they aren't 100% aligned with you on every single issue. The expectation is not that they should be 100% aligned with you on every single issue. You don't deserve that. If you need him, that's an indication that you don't deserve someone better than him because he's the best that you've got. He's obviously not perfect. He's obviously not a radical Christian, conservative, whatever. But he's very sympathetic to you. He's willing to represent you. He's willing to advocate for you within what's reasonable and possible right now. And spitting on him to cross your arms and go sit at home. I don't vote for him. He's not exactly like me. I don't vote for him. All right, well, okay. Then I'm going to I don't think I need to say anymore. This is interesting. Speaking of kayfabe, J.D. Vance begs Peter Thiel to financially back Trump. He needs to get off the sidelines and support the ticket. How interesting. It's from Financial Times. J.D. Vance urges billionaire Peter Thiel to help bankroll Trump campaign. I could read this article earlier, but I can't now. Well, this captures the gist of it. I said he's fundamentally a conservative guy, and I think he needs to get off the sidelines and support the ticket. What's interesting about this is that it's happening. That J.D. Vance is making this statement out here. Because obviously J.D. Vance can shoot a text real quick over to Peter Thiel. I'd imagine they have each other's numbers. I'd imagine that he talks to him multiple times a week. So why is he making this statement publicly? This isn't entirely rhetorical. I genuinely am. I can think of a few different things. I don't have behind the scenes knowledge to know exactly what's happening, but kind of piecing some things together, this looks to me like a like kayfabe and creating a pretext for pulling Thiel back out. Now, why are they pulling Thiel back out? I don't know. Genuinely no idea. I could speculate, but it would be entirely just uninformed speculation. But Pete in the chat and I and Jason, we've all speculated that we've said it seems like Thiel has withdrawn himself back into the shadows, and Mark Andreessen has stepped into his role as the more activist billionaire. But now Peter Thiel is starting to do some interviews, weighing in on all of the same issues that are primarily motivating the PayPal Mafia, Trump campaign, Project 2025 alignment, that whole coalition. Peter Thiel is coming out and very obviously saying that, read between the lines. Sometimes you're going to have to read pretty hard between the lines to understand what Peter Thiel is saying. In this case, you don't. It's very obvious that he's taking a pro-Trump position here. The issues that are animating the Trump campaign, he's in alignment with them. So what's the need for J.D. Vance, a close associate of Peter Thiel's, to publicly call him out and pull him out into public? I would be surprised if this is J.D. Vance just being like, man, I just can't get Peter to step out in the public again. Why do they need him out in the public? Why do they need him publicly supporting him? That story doesn't line up for me. I think this is kayfabe. Making it also creates a bit of a distance, a little bit of animosity between the two of them. But it'll be very interesting to see what Thiel does between now and the election, because it's going to be whatever he does, it's going to send a lot of signals. Elon Musk We will tell our grandchildren what it was like to live with the shit-posting billionaires. And they're going to hang on every word. Stephen King, this grouchy old lesbian, says, oops, SpaceX launches are on hold after a booster rocket toppled over in flames while landing Wednesday. So these people are glorifying in anything negative that happens to the ventures that are like the most positive and civilizationally uplifting that are happening in the world right now. Everything seems to source back to Elon Musk, basically. But isn't this an odd position to take? Your astronauts are stranded up there because of Boeing, because the federal government wants to demonstrate that they are dependent on Elon Musk. And look at that, they're even more dependent on Elon Musk. So a SpaceX launch is going to determine whether or not these astronauts get home. And you're going to like exult in it failing. Also, they do like 100 a year. So Elon's response, Grok is fantastic. I've been playing around with Grok AI for a project that we're working on, and it's really good. Let me see some of the chats you guys are sending in here. That pic of JD, he was so fat. Yeah, it's a good thing he's got the beard. He needs the beard. Andrew says, we've won so much more in 4 years on abortion than we had in the past 5 decades. Right. And the biggest thing standing in the way of more wins is the people who claim to be the most outspokenly in support of getting more wins. Patrick says, being anti-IVF may swing votes the wrong way, but being pro-IVF won't actually do much. Might as well be pro and have a task force actually figure out the cost benefits. Sure. Yeah, like some of this stuff, it's just, you just have to be pragmatic about it. And if it's something that you're really genuinely passionate about, if you want to go out and rampage on the internet yelling at people about it, you'd be better off taking that energy and directing it toward getting yourself on a task force or encouraging a task force to form, which you're not going to accomplish by just screaming at people on the internet. Okay. Kate says, also need to work on the current problems causing infertility, like overexposure to plastics, poison synthetic chemicals in our food, factory farming, etc. I wonder which campaign has recently made a big emphasis on that. Maybe the one we need to yell and scream at for not being good enough. If we can solve for that, then IVF doesn't need to be an option. That's a very good point. I mean, and the thing is with something like IVF is, if you're like mapping out the trajectory of human history, something like IVF is always going to be created, and it's always going to be something that's available. You're never, ever going to wholly eradicate something like that from society. Just like all the AI stuff, the transhumanist stuff, the life extension stuff, all of these things, time spent just trying to combat them on its face is really just tilting at windmills. If you want to combat those things, what you have to do is solve the problems, as Kate's saying, you have to solve the problems that lead people to want to go to those things. And there's always going to be people who are going to go to those things anyways, out of a matter of curiosity or transhumanism or whatever. You're not going to stop those things by going after them directly. The best thing you could do in the Christian practice is to solve those problems for people so that they don't feel like they need to go look for something else to do it. That requires sacrifice and humility. Josh Ham says, off the cuff, JD asked publicly for Thiel to get involved. That allows Thiel to gracefully come back in without having to explain why he ever wasn't involved. Another PayPal mafia in the sidelines might follow. Yeah, I'm kind of inclined that direction. If I had to wager right now, I'd figure it was something like that, but there may be something more to it. I don't know. Raisin says it's kayfabe to ultimately provide an avenue and narrative for other wealthy elites can follow, i.e. how to support Trump and not lose face. Yeah, I think that's probably directionally what's happening. Euthanasia says that Vance Thiel article seemed very much to be fertilizer to let a meme grow and test the waters. It opens possibilities but doesn't really say anything. Yeah, you guys are... What am I here for? You guys get it. I guess I just have to entertain you. Okay. That's a good point for Thomas Queries. Capitalism will always prefer monetizing the problem over solving the problem. Yes, very, very true. So right now, the regime is spurging out about Elon, and they're attacking him from every conceivable angle. And their latest foray has been he's been in this spat with this judge in Brazil, Alexandre de Moraes. The guy looks like, I mean, you couldn't get a more perfect figurehead for the type of thing that the Brazilian government is doing right now. Look at this guy. He's like Mayorkas. These are lizard people. He's the minister of the Supreme Federal Tribunal. So Starlink says, earlier this week, we received an order from Brazil's Supreme Court Justice, Alexandre de Moraes, that freezes Starlink's finances and prevents Starlink from conducting financial transactions in that country. This order is based on an unfounded determination that Starlink should be responsible for the fines levied unconstitutionally against X. So because X isn't playing ball, they've been levying fines against them. X isn't paying the fines, so now they're going after Starlink. It was issued in secret and without affording Starlink any of the due process of law guaranteed by the Constitution of Brazil. We intend to address the matter legally. So they can't quite get away with doing this sort of thing in the U.S. yet, which is why they're doing it in Brazil. Go back and go listen to the Mike Benz and Tucker interview where he talks about all these different quote-unquote NGOs. This is the way that they function, the way they operate as proxies through these other governments. So ostensibly, you would expect that if a foreign country was illegally, unconstitutionally, and tyrannically seizing the assets of an American company on the basis that someone affiliated with that company is also affiliated with another company that they're going after, this is directly where the U.S. government is responsible for stepping in. This is where the State Department, ostensibly, would have the responsibility of engaging in diplomacy I mean, this is essentially a declaration of war on an American company. This would be justification for war in a sane world under the auspices of the current system. However, obviously, the current system does not exist under its own auspices. And the State Department is what's motivating this in the first place. The State Department, NATO, EU, that whole coalition is obviously what's motivating this. Today, Starlink is connecting more than 250,000 customers in Brazil from the Amazon to Rio de Janeiro, including small businesses, schools, and first responders, among many others. We're proud of the impact Starlink is making in communities across the country, and the Starlink team is doing everything possible to ensure their service is not interrupted. Sean McGuire says this is absolutely insane. A rogue judge in Brazil is taking more than 250,000 customers offline because he doesn't like free speech. Elon says many remote schools and hospitals depend on SpaceX's Starlink. SpaceX will provide internet service to users in Brazil for free until this matter is resolved, as we cannot receive payment but don't want to cut anyone off. I can't remember if I had my tweet here. No, I don't. It just blows my mind. It's downright Trumpian the way he's just stacking up W's. Every single thing they throw at him, he's immediately able to transmute it into a sales pitch for his own character. And I say this with great respect and admiration. I'm not being cynical about this at all. You had Teflon Don, now you've got Teflon Elon. So they're going after him, and he's being the magnanimous leader. You guys are being, your government doesn't represent you. Your government is coming after me. So I'm going to continue to provide the service to you for free while we're sorting this out. It's so brilliant. He says SpaceX and X are two completely different companies with different shareholders. I own about 40% of SpaceX, so this absolutely illegal action by the dictator Alexandre improperly punishes other shareholders and the people of Brazil. So imagine being one of the shareholders of SpaceX that's not Elon. Now if you look at the people who are invested in and owners of all his companies, it's not like a who's who of the dissident right. There's a lot of people who are ostensibly regime normies who are being directly impacted financially by this. Again, the regime is completely out over its skis, going balls deep in every conceivable self-destructive idea, which I think is a signal of how desperate they see this situation. They're pulling out all the stops. Preston Burns said, this is some really lawless stuff coming out of Brazil. SpaceX is not Elon Musk. He has about half the cap table. The rest is owned by private investors. If the U.S. government were doing its job, it would use diplomacy to put a stop to this overnight. All Starlink managers in Brazil have been notified and summoned to address the amounts owed to Brazilian courts by X. So Starlink managers are being summoned to address the amounts owned by X. Two completely separate companies who are united by Elon. This is insane stuff. And you don't have to be a crazy political reactionary to be like, this is, we can't live like this. Thomas Query says this thing Brazil is doing is a good example of why they're a third world country and have no development. You can't have a business there without extra legal bribes. It's why they're poor. And you can see how this sort of phenomenon is being purposely cultivated by the State Department and its proxies. So that they can, again, we don't have domestic policy. Everything is foreign policy. This is another point that Tucker and Mike Benz talked about. Everything is foreign policy. We are occupied by a foreign force. And they're using these foreign nations as proxies to go after their political opponents. At the expense of the people, not to sound too bleeding heart here, but the expense of the people in those countries who are being co-opted and weaponized, irrespective of their will. It's not even against their will, it's irrespective of their will. They're being turned into political pawns. The people doing this are just the most inhumane, subhuman creatures of all time. Here's how it's going within the U.S. The judge overseeing Elon Musk and X's defamation lawsuit against Soros-backed Media Matters just denied their motion to dismiss. Media Matters could now be forced to pay back all the ad revenue X has lost as a result of their lies. Last year, they manipulated X to coerce many advertisers to leave the platform. They made it look like X was serving ads next to hate speech, but in reality, they set the whole thing up to frame Elon and the platform. This is the same battle, or the same war, separate battle. These different battles within the same war are happening right now. Because the same State Department proxies that are motivating this Brazilian judge to do this, you can probably imagine what they're promising him or what sort of leverage they have on him. I don't think they have to. If you're a student of one of the two hard sciences left, physiognomy, I don't think they had to lean on him too hard. But the same people doing that are the ones using organizations like Media Matters to go after X on the basis of advertising. Well, now they're suing them back. They filed a motion to dismiss, and it was denied. They tried to claim the federal justice in Texas did not have jurisdiction to hear the case, but the judge wholeheartedly rejected their claim. Because the court has personal jurisdiction over defendants, venue is proper, and plaintiff has properly pled its claims, defendant's motion to dismiss is denied. Being able to do this in Texas is great. One of the and why are they headquartered in Texas? Well, they're headquartered in Texas because they moved there after the last gambit by the regime against Elon, going after his pay package in Delaware. So they reincorporated in Texas. It's just own goal after own goal after own goal by the regime. Josh says, Brazil being a proxy for the DC bureaucrats who want to cut my kids' genitals off. Right. Andrew says, using other countries to attack your multinational corporations for you will radically accelerate deglobalization. Yes. Yes. So in the initiative or the venture to instantiate globalization permanently, they're completely undermining it and destroying it. Josh says, Brazil going after Elon makes me want to pay for a blue check. I want to support the man my enemies are attacking. Well, we can all do that. Little show of support for our patron. Javier says, Brazil has a history of the military correcting for people like Lula, but the regime would not support them this time around. Maybe Trump will? Yes, perhaps. All right, so I just have a couple of clips from Kamala's interview, quote-unquote interview. Oh, now I have to find the... Okay, here we go. Here's the tab. I just grabbed a couple of the most... the ones that stood out the most. So talking to him about his stolen valor thing. So she actually pressed him a little bit on some of this stuff. It wasn't a complete softball interview. The softball is on the back end, where they just edit out anything that's too damaging.
Country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people...
I speak especially passionately about our children.
Know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said...
So they don't have to give them the questions if they know, like, there's like a handful of things they're going to ask them about. So you just prepare a handful of rehearsed statements for each of these major things. They give a little push. They kind of give you the tough question, make you address that thing. And then all the other things, the other questions that you weren't prepared for, that you didn't have a canned response to, then those are part of the 27 minutes that isn't released. Why would you have 27 minutes that you don't release? We did an interview. We edited out 27 minutes of 45. Like that fact on its own. It's not like, oh, we trimmed out the ums and ahs and whatever. Like, well over half, 2/3 of the interview is chopped off. Why would you do that, I wonder?
Said that you were in war. Yeah. Did you misspeak, as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct. But again...
Oh, that's what it is. My wife, the English teacher, she told me my grammar's not always correct. Oh, the grammar issue. Oh.
Again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's.
Dana, this is from the Trump campaign. Dana Bash roasts Tim Walz for lying about using IVF and his arrest for drunken, reckless driving. I'm going to speed this up. Whoops. Speed this up a wee bit.
You had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife used IVF, but it turned out you used a different kind of fertility in order to have children. And then when you ran for Congress in 2006, your campaign repeatedly made false statements about a 19...
She could barely get that out. Your campaign repeatedly made false statements. I'm sorry. They put it on the script for me. I have to say it. She gives him the out as she asks him the question. She says, you said you guys used IVF, but you actually used a different similar thing for your fertility treatment. But apart from that, do you have anything else you want to say about it? Just gives him the out with the question she asks.
95 arrest for drunken reckless driving. What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether they can take you at your word?
My wife says, Eastwood says, hi, Daddy. Hey, bub. Love you, big guy. Make sure you're listening to your mommy.
Well, I've been very public. I think they can see my students come out, former folks I've served with, and they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I make them. The one thing I'll tell you...
I'm ashamed of myself for not thinking of the joke first. The alternative fertility treatment that he used.
is of I wished in this country wouldn't have to do this. I spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there. That's quite a contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us. And so I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands of students. I've been out there. And I won't apologize for speaking passionately, whether it's guns in schools or protecting of reproductive rights. The contrast could not be clearer between what we're running against. The vice president's position on this has been clear. And I think most Americans get it if you've been through that. I don't think they're cutting hairs on IVF or IUI. I think what they're cutting hairs on is an abortion ban and the ability to be able to deny families the chance to have a beautiful child.
All right. And then the last one, CNN unexpectedly asks Kamala Harris a good question. This is the first one we get to see of her. And good Lord, look at the absolute state that she is in.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office,
she looks rough. The bags under her eyes. Either she's actively drunk right now. I kind of don't think she is. I think this is like, I think she's actually not drinking or not nearly as much. And campaigning is not her thing. Yeah, she looks hungover. She looks just raggedy. I said that it looks like they've been waterboarding her in a closet and they just slapped some makeup on her and pushed her out there. She's looking rough.
During the height of the pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it, which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just...
A tax credit of $25,000. This is the first time we've heard that. Before it was that she was going to give them $25,000. Now it's a tax credit. So which one is it? I don't know if this is that she said she was going to give them $25,000, but quietly they've talked about what we're actually going to do as a tax credit, and now she's saying it out loud. That's very interesting.
Just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
So you talk about, you call it the opportunity economy.
Another little pushback from Ms. Bash.
New way forward and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
But the last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
I'm talking about an era that started about a decade ago. New way.
She just looks like... Watch this without the sound. Look how tightly drawn her face is. Lots of downturned lips. Shaking her head a lot. She looks exhausted. Her skin's kind of thin and papery. Straight Buster said she didn't want this. She didn't want the nomination or the candidacy. And I don't think so either. She's looked very unhappy about it all along. Now, interesting interview here. Part of the problem, Dave Smith. Longtime friend of the show, we might say. I like Dave. He talked to Nicole Shanahan. We've played a couple of things from her here. There's a little bit of inside baseball that she drops, and just notice how her rhetoric is picking up steam. Like this is not a woman who is making a political change just purely out of opportunism. She is genuinely upset by what's happened, and it is shaking her to the foundation.
It's really interesting. Before I took the offer to do this job, I spoke with some of Bobby's family members. They reached out to me. One of them, we had a mutual friend, and then the other reached out through a mutual friend. And these are individuals that are in DC, so they're part of, they're on the payroll.
Right.
And they reached out, and they're like, "What is it going to take for you to not take this offer?" And I said, and I'll be totally honest and let your viewers know. I said, "Look, we've got to bring back product liability for vaccine manufacturers. We've got to bring that back." He said, "Okay, let me see if I can get this done." Reverts. 15 hours later, I hear, "Yeah, I can't. No, never going to happen." And I was like, really? Like, who would I even talk to? Like, who did you talk to have that conversation? Like, where does one go within the organization to have that conversation? And he said, "It's unclear to me, but from the people I talk to who claim that they know, it just can't happen." And so they're sheltering the individuals that are ultimately making the decisions. And even Bobby's family, I would say, they don't really know who's making the decisions, but they acquiesce to the structure.
Very, that's a strong ask. Like, this is our price. That to me is evidence of sincerity. Like, if that's what your price is going to be, and you're going to stand by that, and you're ultimately going to, as Ian Carroll says, can't imagine the identity crisis this woman is dealing with. If you're willing to put yourself through that kind of identity crisis, when they announced her, and I saw her background and everything, I was like, good grief. Like, they're not even trying to make it look like they're like in opposition to anything about the regime. But she is, the clips that I've seen, the interviews that I've seen of hers in the last couple of weeks have, I've been very impressed. I mean, obviously she's a lib, and she's not going to stop being a lib anytime soon. But being a lib is not a bad thing. Being a lib doesn't necessarily make someone my enemy. A shit lib, on the other hand, is a whole different thing. Here's another one from her, where, again, for the culture that she comes from, the waters that she swims in, these are some pretty significant admissions that she's making.
Actually, the best part of joining forces with Trump has been seeing MAGA, which I'm learning so much about. I was completely misinformed about what MAGA is. I don't know if you've taken any deep dives into MAGA world, but I was just under the impression that they were gun.
So she doesn't even know who Dave Smith is. I don't know if you've taken any deep dives into MAGA world. I don't know if you understand it or whatever, but I think Dave understands MAGA world.
Toting radicals who wanted to come to my doorstep and rip my liberal family out of my house, and do horrible things to liberals. And that's how MAGA has been sold to a huge portion of America by the mainstream media. And I have to say that what I've learned about MAGA is that they're actually their own party. They're their own grassroots organization that chose Donald Trump. They have so much power in deciding where to point their energy and support. And there are really, really smart, thoughtful, intellectual people within MAGA. I've received beautifully written notes from MAGA supporters, and they were, our base didn't know how to engage with MAGA. Our base was not, MAGA oriented in the sense of even knowing who and what MAGA was and what their infrastructure was. In many ways, it's an online viral movement. And so the coming together of, and they gave us the name MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. Have you seen?
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we didn't come up with that. We're getting hats made, but the coming together of these two groups.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that the MAHA thing was something that that came from MAGA people, but they got they know how to run a campaign. We're going to watch a campaign video here in just a minute, and their messaging is on point, and they know, hey, this is great. Like the unity ticket between MAGA and Maha. It's MAGA. You can't call it MAGA. I hate it when people say MAGA. But you can't really say Maha. MAGA and Maha. Maha alone is terrible, but with MAGA, with MAGA, Maha is actually pretty good. John says, what's hilarious is that her description of MAGA is really just Americans, right? Yeah.
Over the last week, hasn't even been a full week yet, but watching that happen has been really glorious, because that was always the vision of this unity movement, this desire to heal the divide. And even though these are just two pockets within a much larger group of the American demographic, they're two very powerful pockets. And to find common ground has been one of the most motivating, optimistic things I've seen in recent political time.
So then here's the, she says, my team never sleeps. Now this, understand, this is a fascinating thing to me. So what we're going to watch now is a campaign video made by libs for libs that is pro-Trump, that is pro-MAGA. This is a, we've never seen something like this before. We're seeing the political realignment that's happening right now, where the Republican Party is becoming a populist, like a truly populist party, and the Democrats is the regime insiders who are about to be outsiders. Complete restructuring of American political power. So we're now seeing libs speaking to libs about how great the MAGA movement is.
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic? Are you willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America?
Was that Aaron Rodgers holding up the I voted sticker?
And the chronic disease epidemic. Are you?
No, I don't think so. Almost looks a little more like Chris Rufo. I thought that was Aaron Rodgers for a minute, but the jaw is a little too narrow.
Willing to elect someone who was the least popular vice president in modern history, and who offers no policy or vision for America, simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS. Introducing independence. Independence allows you the freedom to finally think independently once again. Instead of believing everything you hear from the mainstream media, independence allows for constructive critical thinking.
I used to hear people on the news say things like Donald Trump and the movement he has encouraged are a threat to democracy. And I instantly believed it. With independence, I now realize the media is run by the Democrat elite, who are a corrupt oligarchy that censors free speech, silences political opponents, supports
Zuck out here catching strays.
forever wars, and abandons democracy by anointing its candidates.
Independence may not be for everyone. If you enjoy being lied to about your president's cognitive abilities, support Orwellian totalitarianism, or are excited about communist fiscal policy, independence may not be right for you. Common side effects of independence may include an awakening of rational thought, successfully identifying propaganda, freedom of choice, loss of hatred, anti-narcissistic behavior, and love of democracy.
I used to blindly hate whoever my party was running against. I didn't care about facts or policy because I was hopelessly indoctrinated. With independence, I'm much more interested in policies that uphold democracy, and I truly care about the health of our country and its citizens.
Ask your doctor if independence is right for you, and enjoy your freedoms once again.
This is the Massey sighting. This is going to be the new mainstream. Like, this is where the mainstream is going to go. The mainstream is not going to be the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign is the insurgency that becomes a vehicle for this. So in a sense, RFK joining forces with Trump is actually a way to mainstream RFK. And the RFK political archetype, we're moving toward that as the new mainstream. It's up to us to maintain the extreme vanguard, but we're never going to be mainstreamed ourselves. It's inevitable in the political evolution process. You're always going to get the sort of squishy middle is always going to dominate the mainstream. And what we're seeing is the squishy middle is becoming something new and different. It's got all of its issues, obviously. You're not going to... It's not like you're going to get a political party straight out of Der Stormer or something. You know, like you're still going to have a lot of shit liberty within it, because the shitlibbery bug is not rooted out so easily. But this is clearly a vast improvement over what it has been for the last, I don't know, 10 plus years. Which it's interesting that when Kamala said 10 years, if you go 10 years back, you've got 2 years of Obama, and then you've got 3.5 years of them. So out of the last 10 years, 6 of it effectively is Democrats. It's so bad. Overton window of RFK left to Trump right. Yes. That's still much further left than I would like, but at least both sides of that window love America. That's a much better future for my descendants. Nailed it. That is exactly it. Don't let the black pillars tell you otherwise. The black pillars exist to try to keep the Overton window further left than this. That's their purpose. Their purpose is to demoralize you, to undermine the vanguard that keeps pulling things rightward, to maintain the leftward posture. Okay. So now, remote viewing. Very sharp change of subjects. Remote viewing is a real thing that humans can do and that should make you question the materialist paradigm. So this is a clip from, apologies to those of you who are 2X listeners. You'll have to slow it down here. I'll try not to pause it too much over the next, whatever, 1.5 minutes, or 1.5, or sorry, whatever the sped up version of 3.5 minutes is. I'll just try to, so you could keep it. You could slow down for the next 3 minutes or so, and then we'll continue.
Can you see the visualizations from different angles?
Yeah.
Can you walk through them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you touch them?
Yeah.
And you can feel them?
Mm-hmm. And I think where the mistake's made is in the term remote viewing. That implies seeing it. You kind of aren't seeing it, but you are. What it is, it's a compilation of all of your senses. Most people go into remote viewing thinking, I'm going to see something, and so they're totally and completely dependent on their eyes. It's not just your vision. It's your smell. It's your taste. It's your feeling. It's your emotions about it. It's everything that you could possibly sense if you were standing in the middle of it. Everything you could possibly say about it. It's right, but it's as though you don't know. You've never seen it before in your whole life. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's kind of masked that way. So where they make a mistake is they make a mistake in naming things or having the need to say what it is. No, nobody wants to know what it is. They want descriptors of it that come to you based on your senses, all of your senses. So if I'm doing a target and let's say I'm just going to throw out a hypothetical. Let's say it's a CIA guy and he wants to know what the spy was caught in South Africa and turned over to our country, and he's a Russian spy. And when he was caught, they haven't been able to determine how he encrypted his messages going back to Russia. That's more important than catching the spy. Okay? So they need to know that. So they come to us with that task. Tell us how he encrypted his messages. So they might write that out. How did the spy from South Africa encrypt his messages? And they put it in a double wrapped opaque envelope. And they put A on it. And I go in a room and they throw the envelope with A on it on a table. And they say, tell us about A. And I just sit there and think about it. And what pops in my head, I tell them.
But you don't know what's in the envelope.
I have no idea what's in the envelope. It doesn't matter. What happened over time, as an example, initially, they knew they couldn't send somebody to a place in Russia that they want to know about. So how do we get that? Well, we could use GPS locations. So they would write out the GPS site, and they would give that to the viewer. And I was nailing GPS sites like crazy. So they said, obviously, Joe has an eidetic memory, and he's memorized important GPS locations in Russia. No, that's not possible. There's too many.
So if you've listened to Jungle Bunker, Telemetric Funk, you've listened to the 3-part series on consciousness between Stormy Waters and Space Age Maximalists, particularly the first episode, you've already heard about this. This is a very, very real thing. Everyone could do it. Think about that. Meditators are particularly skilled and disciplined at holding the shape of their mind. Dean Radin's study on collapsing the wave function via remote viewing. We're going to watch this here in just a sec, but this one I'll have to speed up as well. One of the things that Stormy talked about in that interview is that they selected people when they started doing this at the Stanford Research Institute, which Dean Radin was a part of. as well as the guy name just escaped. Not Joe Dispenza. There's another one of these. Rupert Sheldrake. Rupert Sheldrake was also involved in this, in the remote viewing experiments that they did. I know this man thinks The Men Who Stare at Goats is a documentary. Correct. Yes. So they selected for people to use as viewers. And there's two different categories of person. There's the viewer, and then there's I don't remember, like the prompter, basically. The person who sits there and asks. Neither one of them know what's in the envelope. They're both, the envelope is placed there. They don't know what's in it. You have the person who comes in and they ask prompting questions about it. And then you have the viewer themselves. And they selected for people to be the viewers by looking at particularly military people who had vastly outstripped the average for lifespan for people in their particular discipline within the military. There's something about that then. Like if the average lifespan for someone is 8 months in a particular role, and this person has been there for 3 years, you know, most people get killed after 8 months, but this person's been there for 3 years, that says something about their, potentially says something about they have some sort of a sixth sense that says, don't poke your head out right now. Don't walk out just yet. Stay here, don't move. Move over to that other spot. This is something that was documented about the Austrian painter, that he had an experience like this where he was sitting in one of the trenches, he was eating something, and then he just got basically heard a voice that said, move over there. Oh, okay, got up, went over, sat down over there, and immediately after that, there was like a mortar or something that hit and killed everyone that was around right where he was, and he would have been killed. So there's something, you know, materialism is BTFO. There's human beings, consciousness is something that is not local. It's not produced by the human brain. It's not like a soup of neurons that spontaneously cause this emergent phenomenon. That's gay blank slate scientism. Consciousness is something that's non-local. It's like a frequency, might be an analogy for it, that human beings are receivers for. We're like a radio that receives radio signals, and we can tune into different frequencies. So here's an interesting, this is about a 9-minute video. I've got it on 1.5. And so I'll try to not pause it too much. We'll just listen through it. It's very, very interesting about meditators who are able to collapse the wave function within a closed system.
I assume by now everybody knows a lot about the double slit experiment, so I'm going to go through this very quickly. If you take elementary particles, quanta, photons, electrons, and so on, you send them through two slits, and you look at a screen just to see what happens. If you don't know which of the two slits the particle went through, then you get an interference pattern. And this, of course, works just as well if you're sending a single photon or single electron at one time. The mystery is that as soon as you do know, by any means, which of the two slits the particle goes through, then you get a pattern that looks like it's particles. This is, of course, leads to the famous wave-particle duality. And in a much more practical sense, it leads to this sort of thing. The caption says, it says the cost of the flight went up because we acknowledged its existence. So there's something peculiar about observation. And this is, of course, the quantum measurement problem, which has been described before here, but I'm going to do it in a simpler form. You have some sort of a system which could be a double slit, any kind of physical system, some sort of measuring apparatus, and the measuring apparatus does an observation of the system. From a quantum perspective, you take the tensor product between the two quantum systems, the two physical systems, and you end up with a system and the measurement apparatus no longer being independent. So we can say that the two physical systems are entangled. So from a quantum perspective, we're just dealing with complex waves. There's no particle-like behavior yet. John Bell made this sketch to illustrate the problem. Well, where does the measurement end? So if you imagine that you have a photon and it goes through two slits and it hits a screen, you might have a photodetector, and then you might have a human a counter that looks at the number of times that the photodetector goes off, and then the human eye and the human brain. All of those are physical systems. All of them are therefore quantum. Well, why do we see a particle? Why does observation make a difference? So this is sometimes called the von Neumann chain or the Heisenberg chain. Where is the cut made? When does quantum become classical? John von Neumann said that the measurement chain ends only when knowledge of the measurement is registered by what he called an extra-physical factor. In other words, you can't use another physical system to end the chain because it just becomes more quantum. So you need something extra-physical, by which he meant consciousness. And he wasn't alone in his opinion. Almost all of the founders of quantum mechanics said something like this in various ways, but go all the way back to Bohr and even Planck. They all said something like this, and this continues to the present day, as you know. This is today a minority opinion within physics, but nevertheless, it has a pretty prominent background. So I've been aware of this, of course, and everyone offers theories about consciousness, but nobody does anything about it. When it comes to this particular...
It's almost like mainstream physics is not dedicated to actually honestly studying physics.
Measurement problem. So what we did in the laboratory is we built a double slit system, and fortunately it's a very simple type of a system. You have a laser, you have a filter, you have a double slit, and you have a camera that looks at the result. So the only new element in this experiment is that we ask people, in this case like a meditator, to keep the double slit in mind and to imagine in their mind's eye that they could see which of the two slits that the photon went through. This is, as far as we could tell, the only way of directly testing whether consciousness is actually collapsing the wave function. So this is what the apparatus looks like. The tube sticking out of the long box there is the far end of the helium neon laser, and the double slit and the camera are inside the box, so it's a sealed system. You can't see it with your eye. You can only use your mind eye. This is the camera. It's called a line camera, and this particular one is 3,000 pixels long in a line. And what the camera sees is an alternating band of light and dark. This is the interference pattern. When you look at this in software, you can say, well, how bright is each band? And you get a picture that looks something like that. Does that show up? Yeah. So you get this sort of Gaussian-looking shape, and that's the way of looking at the interference. So if we start with that pattern in picture A, you can do a Fourier transform, which is picture B, and the peak in the middle is now the double slit spectral power. And this is the way we initially started doing these experiments, with looking at the power spectrum. And this is convenient because, again, we ask someone who, in this case, in the laboratory is 2 meters away from the sealed optical system. We ask them to keep the double slit in mind. And then the measurement is very simple. We predict that if observation is doing something to the interference pattern, that the double slit component of that interference will go away, or at least it'll go down. In addition, because this is an abstract task, the double slit itself is about, each slit is 10 microns across. And if you simply hold up the double slit to somebody to have them look at it, they may or may not even be able to see it. So it's difficult for some people to imagine that they can, in their mind's eye, see what's going on in that space. So we do a real-time analysis of the double slit power, and we use that to adjust feedback tone. So if you have somebody doing the task, they could look at a screen, which is showing a signal, or they can simply do it by listening to the tone. And generally what we do is we have like a droning tone, and we ask the person to make the droning tone louder, make it just louder because it's a very pleasant tone, and then that if they would know that they were succeeding through that tone. This also provides a way to focus their mind on the task at hand, because mind wandering is always a big problem. The protocol is very simple as well. We compare the double slit power during mental observation versus no observation. They get a voice message which says, now concentrate, and then now relax, and this alternates. We do the observation periods for 30 seconds, and the rest periods are 30 seconds, plus or minus a random 5 seconds, for reasons I'll mention later. This is repeated in a typical session 40 times. So the whole session lasts 20 minutes. And the measure that we're interested in is a differential measure. We're asking, what is the double slit power while observing versus while resting? So that, and there are many ways of doing the statistics. We generally present it in terms of a z-score, or an effect size. So we did our first experiment in this form. This was for 35 sessions, 20 minutes apiece, 15 people contributed it. Overall, you can see the mean and one standard error. We did actually pretty good. Meditators did a little bit better than the non-meditators. And the prediction was that double slit power would drop during observation, and indeed that's what we saw. So when we do experiments of this type, especially when they work the first time, we're always suspicious about the first timers effect, or everybody's very enthusiastic about what's going on. So we repeat it again and again. So we did 4 pilot studies, each time adjusting things in various ways and looking at different kinds of aspects of the design. And in each case, each one of the 4 pilot studies, the meditators did quite well. If you just combine everybody, the green dots are the overall result, and in some of the experiments, the non-meditators did not do very well. They tend to mind wander pretty quickly. So as you remember, there's a 30-second period where you're asked to do this abstract task of putting your mind in a box at a distance. And they can do that for about 4 seconds, and then they can't do it anymore. So the overall result of the pilot studies was this. You see, again, overall, we got a pretty nice effect. Meditators did quite well. Non-meditators overall got actually close to chance. And we ran the same system, and this, by the way, was 250 20-minute sessions, 137 people, and we ran the same system again and again as controls, which are the white dots, and we don't see any artifacts within the hardware or software or analytics that would suggest that there's some kind of bias in the system.
So yes, the double slit reacted to the observation of a person not present. So the person was imagining themselves observing it. And they had a proxy for how they would be able to do that, because it's actually like what you're trying to imagine is kind of crazy. And obviously the people who meditate, who are able to really focus their mind on something and not just get kind of pinged around, had were able to demonstrate it much more than the non-meditator. But on average, they're able to do this remotely. So instead of just having the double slit experiment where you're observing it, like looking in the box while it's happening, the person is away from the box, imagining themselves looking into it, and they're still having the same effect. So there's so many things that you can derive from this. There's another study that that Randall Carlson had a guy he interviewed that he talked about where I've talked about it on the show before, but I'll repeat it here. They did an experiment where they had someone sitting looking at a computer, and they would flash an image of like a cat or something like that, and then after that they would have them choose two different descriptive words like cute and ugly for the cat, for the image that they saw. Then they did an adaptation on it where, so that's what the control group was doing. The other group, they would flash the word that they wanted them to choose subconsciously, like imperceptibly to the conscious mind. They would flash it just before they showed the picture of the cat. So like you would flash ugly imperceptibly to the active conscious, and then show the picture and then have them choose. And as you would expect, flashing that word changed the way that people would choose. It would bias them toward choosing the word. It would at least make it so they would be slower to choose the opposite of the word, or they would be more likely to choose the actual word that was flashed. Then they did another adaptation on it. This is where it got really crazy. So they would show them the picture, they would have them choose the word, cute or ugly, then they would flash, subconsciously, imperceptibly flash the word. And it had virtually the same effect. Which means there's only two conclusions you could draw from this that I could think of. Either they're using a quantum random number generator to randomize the what is being flashed. And so either the person's mind is making the computer flash the thing that they are going to choose, or that they chose, or they're going into the future, seeing which one is going to be what the outcome of the randomizer is going to spit out, and being informed by that. So it's either telepathy or telekinesis, one of the two. The implications of this are just beyond profound. Particularly for, if you like, this is the heart of the no fucking blackpilling message. Because when you blackpill, you are using this skill of yours to affect and change the world around you. You have this innate talent. You can cultivate that talent, and you can use it with discipline, or you could be completely undisciplined and just get yanked around and spaz out and let your mind go toward any which thing. This is why it's so important that you constantly inundate yourself with positive, wholesome, uplifting things, because it changes you. It literally changes you, and when it changes you, you change the things around you, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. Dagon says, dude, does Peter Thiel have a remote viewing branch? This is a speculation. I have no evidence for this whatsoever, but I do find it very interesting. Peter went to Stanford. He's obviously would be very interested in this sort of thing. And Palantir is named after seeing stones, remote viewing stones. Is Palantir a software company? I don't know. It's a very interesting thought. Meta Prime says, if you want to talk consciousness with people, ask them if they believe in the placebo effect or ever get a feeling they're being watched and then turn around to see someone staring at them. This is another study that Stormy talks about that's been duplicated many, many times. They put like an EKG device on someone and then have someone look at them. And at the moment, you can be pretty far removed. And at the moment that you place your eyes on that person, all of their vital signs will go off. You can tell that you're being looked at by someone remote from you, even if you don't know they're there. And the placebo effect, right. The placebo effect alone should absolutely shatter any materialist conceptions people have. Thomas Query says the wave particle thing doesn't exist until it's observed, so they had people meditate that they were observing it, and then in reality, that did make it happen without really observing it. Correct. Oh, interesting. Josh Ham says he sent me a DM. The Trump War Room just posted about a Colorado apartment building taken over by an illegal gang. I've seen people talking about this, and I was waiting for more information on it before weighing it in. I've bookmarked a few things about it. This may hit public consciousness soon, and I think it's very normie and ho scaring. They will want order restored. Very much, yeah. I think Peter did bring up remote viewing. That's right. I'd be very interesting to know if I don't know if you'd ever find something like that out, but I can't help but see that connection. Okay, last couple stories here. First one, talking about AI videos. Ian Carroll, shout out to Ian Carroll, not the one in the chat, his namesake. The end of cat videos forever. We're going to speed this one up again because we're over 2 hours already.
2024 might be the very last year that we have cat videos. You already know this, but you might not realize it. Because what is it that makes cat and funny animal videos like so cute and so funny to watch? It's not what you're seeing, it's that you know that what you're seeing is real, right? You're seeing a real animal do some really weird, funny shit. Like you see this and you're like, holy shit, that's a cat riding on a fucking crocodile. That's crazy. You see all of this and you're like, holy shit, nature's amazing. These birds are crazy. And you're right. Nature is amazing, and these birds are crazy, but I would bet that you've never seen one of these birds in real life, right? And real life is about to change forever. Because today, you kind of know when a video is AI generated, you kind of know the look of AI, but the line is blurring really fast. And the moment the line blurs, just a little more, suddenly, all of those cat videos are no longer cat videos. Suddenly, they might just be made up pixels. And we all know this is coming, but no one really thinks about the implications for like our deeper reality. Because most of us live in our houses, interact with our people, stay in our town, and really only see the world through a screen. And it'll start with all of us just kind of wondering, maybe that video was AI generated. Who knows? Maybe it was real or not. But if you get enough years down the line, you might start to get kids that don't even believe some of these animals exist. Because I've never seen that animal in real life. That's just a made up animal. Maybe we'll go through a time when people think everything is real and the entire internet is just a construct of AI designed to control what we all think about the world. Kids 10 years from now might not even think this is a real animal because it's only ever existed in the screen and everything in the screen is made up. What the fuck is that thing? If you didn't know that was real, how would you know that was real? What the hell? And if you think about it, we already do this. When I'm reporting on a story, I treat a video really different if it comes from before 2010-ish than if it's after. Because if it comes after, you have to notice, is this AI modified? Is this AI generated? Is this a real video? But if it's an old piece of historic footage, you don't have that question in your mind. You can trust it. It tells.
That I don't think is the case at all. If anything, I think the older ones are almost easier to fake. Because you don't have to, you can have weird artifacts in them. The picture can be lower quality. I think it's almost the other way around for me.
Tells you what really happened. In fact, old video footage is one of the best primary sources for figuring out what actually did happen. But all of that is about to change, and we don't really know how or why. And everyone talks about like the deep fakes of famous people and the deep fakes of like, you know, politicians and news. But I actually think it is almost articulated better with cat videos. Because it's not just the news that this is going to take from us. This is going to take a certain level of wonder away from the world. Because suddenly you can't trust the world to be real anymore. And that's kind of sad. I mean, I hope there'll be solutions. I hope we'll figure out a way for this not to happen. Who knows what's going to be real or not? I don't know. All I know is that we're living in one of the craziest times that has ever existed in the human experience. And we are all observers to that time. Outside of what you do or don't do about it, outside of your choices, you're an observer of one of the most profound shifts in human consciousness that has ever happened. So soak it all in now while you can. Admire the beauty in your day today, in your life today, because next year it will be very different. And 10 years from then, it will be almost unrecognizable. You're the last generation that's going to have cat videos. You're the last generation that's going to be able to do all the things we do today. That might be a good thing. That might be a bad thing. It's probably going to be a bit of both. But the next time that a cat video pops up on your Instagram feed, just take a moment in comfort that, at least for now, you still know that at least that is a real cat. Right?
So obviously he's taken the black pill perspective on it. Yes, perfect. Yes, thank you, Dagon. He says another selection pressure on authenticity. I think there is going to be there are going to be innovations that are made, whether it's being able to confirm authenticity based on the like a tool to evaluate the video itself. This is going to be a massive cottage industry. It already kind of is. And the internet as we see it today, he is right. The internet as we see it today is going to change. We've lived in this epoch where you just kind of have the free and open internet, and you've got these big global systems and everything. But what I think is probably going to happen is people are increasingly going to follow people who they know and have a personal connection with. And it actually places a premium on people going out and taking these kinds of videos and having a public persona that is trusted and authentic. So you've got the negative side of it, but there's also going to be a positive side as well, because it's going to be an increase in selection pressure for authenticity, which is going to raise the value of authenticity. Being able to demonstrate that something is authentic is going to be, and having it be authentic. Authentic human art is going to become more valuable because of the proliferation of AI art. There's always, again, what you focus your mind on is what you will produce and what you will see. You can choose what you're going to see. So you can see the downside of it, or you can see the upside of it. MetaPrime says, things are shifting back to chat groups over timeline. Yes, right. Which is, like I've talked about, you get the simultaneous centralization and decentralization. Both of these forces are occurring simultaneously. On the flip side, here's something that's really cool with AI. The idea that every single person can create an app they want in just a few minutes really gives me joy. Here's a fun one I made with Claude, warts and all. Do you see the whole process that she goes through here with, actually, it's probably easier to see here. Yeah. So she says, build an app that lets me type in a Celsius temperature, and 1, it translates it to Fahrenheit, and 2, tells me what to wear. So she gives it the programming here for what she wants it to say. So she tests it, and it's kind of fucked up. So she screenshots it, uploads a screenshot, and says, fix it. So warts and all. That's pretty cool. And here's one last one. Looks like my wife is ready for me to come help her with the milk. So I've got one last video for you guys on this. Creating Mac apps with Cursor, Composer, and Claude with 0 coding skills. One day, 265 messages and 700 lines of code later, I built a native Mac app for 11 Labs to generate voiceovers and drag to your favorite editor. So if you're someone who's doing voiceover content and you want to be able to, or you're doing content that includes AI voiceovers and you want to be able to do it really slickly, this would be a fantastic app. This hits a little close to home. I may even be actually making use of this app in the near future. But this is these are the sorts of things that are possible now with these sorts of apps, which drastically raises the capacity of the average person to be able to generate high leverage products really quickly and easily. Of course, we're going to get a proliferation of those high leverage products, which is, again, going to generate a selection effect for the best ones.
Hey friends, I'm excited to show you a demo of the 11 Labs native app that I just made with Cursor Composer over a day on the weekend. So the first thing you'll see is you have this new button in the Mac menu bar. And when you click it, it brings up this 11 Labs helper. Now you can see I've previously generated some things, so let's just try it out.
This is working.
Cool, it indeed works. And you can see it's got my voices, the different models that we have. Whoops, closed it. And it allows you to generate speech. So I've got this really cool 11 Labs orb here, but it is too quiet. So let's give it a voice. And this is, I think, going to be great for voiceovers, for creators who are working with videos, and they just need to drag in that speech file. So let's say, hello, everyone. This is a demonstration of this app. I'm going to generate that speech. Cool. And now let's click it.
Hello, everyone. This is a demonstration of this app.
Cool. It works. And so I can just click and drag and bring it right into my video editor. And so now I can just hit play.
Hello, everyone. This is a demonstration of this app.
Cool. And you can see it's working. How did I build this? Well, it was hundreds of lines of code, not written by me at all, written by Cursor Composer. And I'm excited to include a full article in this thread that is over 2,000 words long and explains all of this. So excited for you guys to have this too, and then can't wait to see what you make with it. Thanks for watching.
So I'll drop the link to the tweet where he has the article for those of you who want it. There it is. Thomas Query says this is basically what all IT jobs are right now anyway. People tell you what you want and you make it. People tell you what they want and you make it. We are the AI right now, but eventually we will disappear. Right? So it's the white-collar jobs that are going to be hardest hit. What it also means is that the people who can specialize in this and take advantage of it and get out ahead of the curve are going to have a massive leg up over the competition. So now you don't have to go, you don't even, this sort of thing is going to eliminate all of these coding schools, which were something that was conceived of just within the last several years. So we're getting these industries turned over really, really quickly. And it is leveraging up the capacity of individual people to create really powerful applications, which then facilitates even bigger projects. Both of these timelines exist simultaneously. All right. Got to go down and help the wife. So, appreciate you guys. Hope you have a good week. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back on Monday for another episode of the ASTROLABE. Go join the King Pill Discord. We're going to be doing a schizo stream tonight, about 8 p.m. Central. It's available to anybody in the Discord. So, we'd love to have you there. There's also a Buy Me a Coffee. If you go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled, then you can toss some shekels my way. Click the like button on your way out, and of course, you know it. We've got to finish with Hulk.
They're my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States.